Jennifer Kale was a boho vagabond with no commitments, selfless responsibilities, or ambitions. Really, she was pretty much a loser. Her wanderlust wafted her through Manhattan, San Francisco, Malibu, and finally Citrusville. It was in secluded Citrusville that would change Jennifer Kale forever. Staying with her eccentric Uncle Joshua, Jennifer spied on his periodic rituals in the cult of Jeredna. Writing off the rituals as just some seedy sex cult, her opinion changed after witnessing the summoning of Thog and Sominus from the land of night and day. The supposed demons desired the tome of Jeredna, the spellbook wielded by Joshua. It was then Jennifer acted as she had never acted before. She selflessly committed herself to protecting the tome. Fleeing into the swamp, Jennifer got lost and encountered a lonely and frightened swamp monster, the Man-Thing. Muffling her screams, Jennifer's heart broke as the monster ran, tripped, and seemingly begged her to not hurt him. Curiously, the creature's whimpering rhythmically affected the tome in Jennifer's hands. Opening the tome, Jennifer witnessed the ancient writing morph into English, communicating the confused thoughts of the Man-Thing. She read the translation as if reading someone else's diary. After befriending Man-Thing, Jennifer was caught by her uncle. With the tome, Joshua opened a dormant nexus point to Sant, a world in the dark multiverse. Before he could throw Jennifer through the nexus, Man-Thing rescued her and burned Joshua with a simple touch. From the nexus stepped Dakim, an ancient Atlantean sorcerer who helped dispatch Thog and Sominus. He revealed Jennifer was his descendant and thanked her and Man-Thing for their heroism. However, the nexus point was now permanently open to any point in reality 616. However, Dakim was busy enough with his duties on Sant. Jennifer and Man-Thing volunteered to guard the Nexus and protect Earth from whatever might walk through it. Over the years, the duo has battled zombie Solomon Grundy, befriended Howard the Duck, and allied with Black Orchid, an avatar of the Purple from the dark multiverse. Jennifer Kale is a witchy woman with otherworldly commitments, selfless responsibilities, and ambitions. She is indeed a winner. A witchy winner. 1984, Los Angeles. Chris Kent was a comic book artist starved for new ideas. 1984, Detroit. Bet Kane was a demolitionist fed up with urban decay. Cousins, the duo were best friends 2,000 miles removed. They pooled their resources and opened a refurbishment and restoration shop in Opal City. Despite arguments over what kitsch in which to invest, the shop prospered. Chris collected inspiration for an indie comic. Bet enjoyed treasure hunting in junkyards and estate auctions. One night, Chris dreamt of hearing whispers in the dark. The next morning, Bet awoke from a nightmare of screaming flames. The next night, they underwent sleepwalking. Chris wandered into a cemetery and dug up a grave with his bare hands. Betta meandered into a dilapidated mansion and ripped up floorboards with bloodied nails. Chris beheld the glow of an indigo lantern. Bet upheld a flickering red lantern. Within the indigo glow was Barbatos, the Nightwing. Within the crimson flame was Phoenix, the Flamebird. Chris awoke floating in the sea of night. Bet opened her eyes to the burning sunlight. Chris could foresee hypertime outcomes and wield dark force. Bet ignited flames and burned futures. They had become the newest avatars of the endless duo. Fleeing their pasts, fighting to change their futures, the cousins toured all of reality 616. The purpose? To answer the question, in the cycle of creation and destruction, what is worth preserving? Is it love? Life? Legacy? After confronting the skeptical, endless pantheon, the cousins gave the only answer that made sense to them. Wonder. Pure wonder. 2010, Saugerties. By the time Richard Ryder was a high school senior, he had spent nearly every day with his best friend, Vance Astrovic. They were twin opposites in many minute ways. Unlike Vance, Richard wasn't the best student. Unlike Richard, Vance was surviving abuse at home. Richard doubted he would ever have a future. Vance dreamt of nothing but. The best part about their friendship was that they could talk for hours about sports, girls, science fiction, first experiences, whatever. It didn't matter. Or they could just take turns peering through a telescope in silence. They were that close. And then came the inevitable day they would go their separate paths. Vance was awarded the Strong Scholarship and admitted into Project Starjump. Richard insisted they go celebrate. They played their last game of basketball, drank their last milkshake at Uncle Fudge's cafe, and hooked up with their classmates Donna Lee and Ginger. Stargazing, they witnessed a fiery UFO crash. From the radioactive forest fire emerged Zor, an empowered fugitive from among the Lufamoid people. Upon seeing witnesses, the fugitive aimed a weapon at the snooping humans. Diving from the flames onto Zor's back was a fatally wounded Nova Centurion. Healthier, Zor threw the Centurion to the ground, separating the hero from his helmet, and executed him. Zor fled upon hearing sirens. Richard crept forward in curiosity. Vance advised Richard to go no further due to radioactivity. However, Richard knelt beside the fallen Centurion. He had never witnessed such bravery firsthand. He retrieved the Centurion's helmet. Upon touching it, data was downloaded into Richard's brain, rendering him in a coma for a year. Awakening, Richard was interrogated by agency investigators. Vance had likewise been interrogated. Due to his close encounter and enrollment in Project Starjump, he was fast-tracked to pilot Odysseus-1, the first interstellar craft. Meanwhile, Richard enrolled in a community college writing program. Neither he nor Vance mentioned a helmet, as it seemingly vanished. In reality, it had hidden itself in a pocket dimension. When Zor was flushed out by the agency, the helmet presented itself to Richard. The helmet printed a uniform and downloaded tactics into Richard's brain. Nova apprehended Zor and promptly rocketed to Xandar. Impressed, the World Mind inducted Richard into the Nova Corps. He rose from Corpsman to Centurion in record time. Earning the macro-level Nova Force, Richard entered the Apocalypse War, teamed with Earth-Zero's Green Lantern Corps, and survived the Annihilation Wave. While rocketing home, Richard came upon the Odysseus-1. Inside was his best friend preserved in suspended animation for a journey to Alpha Centauri. For a moment, Richard thought to awaken his friend and share his adventures. But on second thought, he decided not to spoil all the wonder that awaited Vance. And so Richard knelt beside his friend and spoke of exotic sports, alien girls, and close encounters. And then there they were, in silence among the stars. They were that close. There is natural, there is supernatural, and then there is paranatural. The Occult Research Center investigates possible incursions into the mortal sphere by the powers that be from the Crunch. A knock on the door is often greeted by receptionist Kathy Sutton, and followed soon thereafter by an audience with Rack Shade. For anyone experiencing psychedelic horror, the Occult Research Center is there. Today, there is a knock on the door, and Kathy greets a new client, a man named Wynn.
The Citadel claims to be protectors. They rewrite lexicons, ban and burn texts. They create societal safety valves to disguise their rule as just. The Citadel hegemony began gradually. Entire generations have never known life without the Citadel. For them, it is simply everyday normal life. This is the normalization of tyrants. Once the Badoon, the enemy without, was eliminated, a more sustainable enemy, an enemy within, was determined. The Omega Men. And who are the Omega Men? Anyone who dares mention the Citadel is outliving its usefulness. Anyone who preserves texts. Anyone who knows the system is rigged to justify tyranny. Anyone who recalls life without the Citadel. We are such people. We are the end of the Citadel. We are the Omega Men.
From the Journal of Richard Swift, 1994. Nostalgia is both delicate and potent. It is that twinge in your heart. It is not a wheel, but a carousel, a machine to times past. Gulzar said nostalgia is not a place to live. Tell that to one who has lived in Opal City as long as I have. Where the coffee is as French today as it was 2 centuries ago. Where the shops preserve the past for future trendsetters. Where suburbia never existed. where there is always a starman of the red and the green. Nostalgia is indeed delicate and potent as the city's namesake.
Berlin. Hoods are pulled from the frightened faces of metallurgists Per Degaton and Malachi Z. Staring them in the face is Der Führer himself. Hitler then gestures to 3 ore samples guarded under glass, isotopes of dark metal. Although Der Führer had attacked scientific pursuits, he endorsed this one. Degaton and Z eagerly begin experimenting on Jewish subjects. They learn those afflicted with mineral poisoning exhibit spatial, temporal, and even spiritual perceptions. Z experiments on himself. He poisons himself 1 metal at a time. He witnesses alternate timelines, vibrates into a parallel universe, and encounters the ghosts of dead test subjects. Meanwhile, Degaton invents reverse entropy ammunition, anti-gravity propulsion, and impact-absorbing armor. The duo are skittish in asking from where these metals originate. Rather than sanctioning such curiosity, Der Führer introduces the benefactor, an oddly accented, singularly featured nobleman named Vandal Savage. It is afterward that Z drops dead from mineral poisoning. Degaton mourns. Vandal comforts him. The nobleman explains only those of a specific lineage can adapt to such mineral poisoning. The nobleman cups Degaton's tear-stained visage. He tattles that Hitler has lost himself in delusions of temporal war and multiversal dynasties. Degaton gazes into the bottomless abyss behind Vandal's eyes and beholds nothing. Just pure nihilism. Perhaps Der Führer is delusional, but he at least envisions something. "Who are you?" stutters the horrified metallurgist. Vandal sits Degaton in an artifact-adorned parlor of only the moodiest firelight. He tends the fire, his gaze melting into the dancing flames. His words seem almost disembodied as he reminisces of wars among the 10 immortal tribes of bear, lion, bird, panther, wolf, stag, fenghuang, shark, bat, and blood. It was the blood tribe from which Vandal descended, a tribe now as extinct as the mammoths he once hunted. He asks what Degaton wants. Degaton considers, carefully. He is a metallurgist. He wants to mine and to forge. Vandal asks where are Degaton's loyalties. Again, Degaton considers his words. He is loyal only to the task of mining knowledge. It is now Degaton's turn to interview. What does Vandal want? Where are Vandal's loyalties? The immortal considers all manner of risks before answering with a command. Come with me. 1973, Peru. Suan was a patient woman. Her father, Golden Claw, had instilled in her the serenity and focus required for patience. She paced herself in every aspect of life. Planning, logistics, and execution were as well paced as her every step. As Jade Claw, she secured trust among the world's criminal elite. She ensnared manhunters, disoriented Spiral, and stupefied the Central Bureau of Intelligence. After years of carefully crafted, fragile patience, Suan united the criminal elite under her management. The Celestial Order of the Sifan, the 23rd Sect, the Leopard Cult, the Fancigars, the Thugis, the Hashishin, the Left-Hand Path, the Three-Cornered Sight, and the Light Seekers all became one. The Order of the Golden Dawn. No government, no corporation, no religion dared to oppose them. But what of the individual? What of Richard Dragon, Kung Fu fighter? 1941, New York City. A morgue is robbed of its freshly dead. The attendant is interrogated. His gaze is glassy-eyed, cracked with shock. He describes black-robed men moving as if ink, twisting as if twine, and stretching as if rubber. He concludes his narrative by describing black hoods filled with shark teeth. The police assume he is meant for the funny farm and instead concoct theories about Chinese cannibals. Unbeknownst, a black-clad hero eavesdrops. As Omar Mosley, he was just the black chauffeur for the police commissioner. But as the Black Marvel, he knew the Order of the Hood was stealing human brains and why? To feed their symbiotes.